Now. So we had a great lunch today, really a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of new ideas on focusing on lowering costs for working families, whether it's child care or prescription drugs or semiconductor chips or filling up the gas pump, what's on the dining table, cost of food. We're coming up with solutions to address these issues. That's the big difference between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to lowering people's costs. We have real answers. They don't. They just attack. And why don't they have answers? Because much of the time it goes after the special interests that support them. So they don't want to deal with the oil companies or the meatpacking companies or the shipping monopolies. So we are focused on getting costs down, and you're going to see a lot of activity in March on us, from us on that issue. Now, let's not forget, we're a very strong economy. In President Biden's first year, the economy added 6.6 million new jobs, the most ever in a president's first year. But we're not stopping there. Now that wages are going up, we want to make sure costs go down so the average person has more money in her or his pocket. And that's what our whole lunch was about, or most of our lunch was about today. Various members came up with different ideas, and we're going to focus and we're going to come up with caucus agreement on those ideas. Not everyone will agree with each idea, but there'll be large buy-in, and you'll hear a lot about this from us as we move on. And one of the ways we're reducing costs, of course, is the competition bill to relieve U.S. supply chains. That was bipartisan. And on any of these cost-saving bills, we'll welcome Republicans joining us. If we can get 60 votes on a bunch of them, that's fine. But when we can't, we're still going to move forward. And you'll see some votes on the floor on these as well. We've been pushing for years, for instance, to lower the cost of prescription drugs. We think it's an outrage that insulin should cost $600 per month rather than $35 a month. And we're working with Republicans on antitrust bills to increase competition. So as I said, some will be partisan, some will be bipartisan, but we have solutions, and we're going to focus like a laser on reducing costs. The new proposals and new ideas keep coming, and we're going to propose legislation, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to go back to our states and start talking about these things. Some of the members have already, as you've probably seen in their local newspapers or even reported in the national media. Americans, and so we want to get that done. Our goal is to have wages that have increased stay up, the costs that Americans pay, much of it induced by COVID, go down, and people are much better off. And that is where we're headed. So let me first call on Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck. It was a very spirited caucus, and I think we have identified some ideas that we're starting to develop, and the goal is clear. We need a credible, simple approach that American families understand. We want to help these families make ends meet, but we don't want to make inflation worse. We've got to come up with a plan that addresses that. Each family has a different challenge, but we know that inflation is a challenge to all of us that we can deal with. And there are several elements that we think are going to help this economy improve. First, have we reached the COVID corner yet? We don't know the answer to that, but there are promising signs as we watch the hospitalizations and death rate go down, just ever so slightly, but moving in the right direction. Secondly, as Chuck mentioned, that we be more competitive. We need more jobs right here in the United States. We need to make sure that workers have jobs, that businesses are expanding. There are many exciting opportunities. Over the weekend, I was with Pete Buttigieg, Senator Tammy Duckworth, and Governor Pritzker in Normal, Illinois. And we were addressing the new Rivian plant and the impact on the economy of creating 5,000 new jobs in that community. Good American jobs making a product in America for Americans to buy. We think that's a viable part of Illinois' future and America's future. Let's find other opportunities to do exactly the same. Secondly, we got to make sure, as I mentioned, competition with China. But the third point is look for the concentration of ownership that's driving prices up. What do the oil companies have to say? Why are the prices so high at the pump? Is it for profit taking? Same questions could be asked when it comes to food products and across the board. We're not afraid on the Democratic side to ask those hard questions and to follow to the real cause of the problem. That means there's got to be a realistic approach and one that the American people understand.
Senator Murray.
Well, thank you. You know, when it comes to lowering costs and helping families make ends meet, Democrats haven't just been talking the talk. We have been putting forward solutions and putting money back in Americans' pockets. I've seen firsthand what our work has meant to families. In my home state of Washington, thanks to the policies Democrats passed, we provided more rental and heating assistance and helped people stay in their homes and keep the heat on this winter. We saw a record number of people sign up for quality, affordable health care. And we are bringing high-speed internet to 240,000 people who currently do not have it and making it more affordable for all of them, to name just a few examples. So when it comes to delivering for families, Democrats are a party focused on getting it done, with or without Republicans. And this past year, by the way, we've done both. We have taken significant bipartisan steps, like our historic infrastructure bill, which is lowering costs for internet, transportation, and clean energy. And we're continuing to work on a bipartisan bill to strengthen our supply chains and bring down prices here by making us less reliant on manufacturing abroad. But let's be clear, at the end of the day, if we can take a step to put money back into families' pockets, if we can make life a little bit easier for people, especially when times are so hard, we're going to do it, whether or not Republicans are willing to do the right thing and work with us. Because as we've seen, Republicans talk about costs, but actions are going to speak a lot louder than words. And when Democrats passed the American Rescue Plan, which nearly cut child poverty in half, got millions of people health care coverage for less than $10 a month, and took so many other steps to help families make ends meet, we did that without a single Republican vote. And Democrats are now continuing to push for more steps to lower prescription drug costs by giving Medicare new power to negotiate prices for patients, and by capping the cost of insulin. It's a drug millions of people need to survive at just $35 a month. We're also pushing to support working families by ensuring every parent can get quality, affordable childcare and early education for their children, and providing paid leave so it won't cost anyone anything to take time off to care for their loved ones. And we want to pay for all of this by asking the wealthiest Americans and largest corporations just to pay their fair share. The difference is pretty clear. Democrats are taking action to lower costs for families, and we have fully paid for plans to do a lot more. Meanwhile, I've heard a lot of talk, but no serious Republican plan to help lower families' costs moving forward. If Republicans want to show families they are serious about helping people make ends meet, our doors are open. I hope they choose to work with us on what we see as clearly serious problems. Thank you.
Senator Stabenow.
Thank you. You know, this last year it really was a headline of Democrats deliver, but there's more to do, and that's what we're focused on for the coming year as it relates to the costs that families are feeling every single day. And there's no question that our country still faces supply chain challenges. I certainly from Michigan can speak about that and what that means, and everything that we buy in terms of cars and appliances and every part of the economy, and we are laser focused on addressing that, and the increased costs due to COVID. And over again, when we look at what has happened when you shut the economy down in the United States and globally, the ripple effect is in every part of our lives. And so we have been laser focused and will continue to be laser focused in addressing that. And Republicans have done nothing to lower costs. They have proposed nothing to lower costs. We've worked with President Biden to pass the American Rescue Plan that put shots in people's arms, to create safety for them, for their family, to get kids back in school. When the president took office, there were 46% of the children in America in school. Now it's 98%. That's a big difference, and we understand the challenges families still face under COVID, but it's safer. Children are back and learning in the classroom. And we've gotten our economy moving. in the fastest, strongest way since 1984. It is amazing, the underlying strength, even when we've seen costs go up, which are very real. So consider a Michigan family with 2 young children. Dad works at a manufacturing plant. Mom manages a local restaurant. They're not wealthy, but they work hard, and they get by. Then the pandemic hits. This Michigan family needed help, and the American Rescue Plan delivered. We established the Restaurant Revitalization Fund so Mom's restaurant could stay open and keep her on the job. Republicans voted no. And we provided larger Affordable Care Act tax credits that cut the cost of their health insurance, made sure their children could see a doctor when they got sick. Republicans voted no. We expanded the child and dependent care tax credit. That means this family qualifies for an $8,000 tax cut to cover child care. Republicans voted no. This Michigan family was able to keep paying their rent thanks to the $1,400 economic impact payments and the largest tax cut in generations for American families with children. And again, every Republican voted no. The pandemic has been a tough time for this family and every American. But rather than joining us to tackle high costs and inflation, Republicans are busy standing up for big corporations that are price gouging Americans while making record profits. We are laser focused on lowering Americans' costs and continuing the strongest economic growth since 1984.
Thank you. We're going to take questions first on the subject of cutting costs. So don't ask if it's not cutting costs. Yes.
Are you committed to putting a gas tax holiday bill on the Senate floor this year?
We had, as you know, I think 8 or 9 of our members have introduced this, including many of those in tough races in 2022. We're having a caucus discussion on it. We haven't yet taken a caucus position, but it's one of the things of many things that we're looking at in terms of reducing costs. Other cost questions? Yes. You got to talk a little louder.
In respect to costs related to COVID, has the administration put forward any reflection?
Okay, that's not a cost question, please. I'll get back to you, but I asked on costs.
Some of the ideas you mentioned, like the lowering the cost of insulin, are part of the Build Back Better bill. Do you see this going through reconciliation, or do you talk about separate efforts that would be reconciled?
One is not a substitute for another. In March, the committees are talking. We're having lots of discussions with individual senators to get Build Back Better moving again. But at the same time, our focus on costs is going to be focused on specific issues and costs that does not take away from Build Back Better. Yes?
In terms of cost cutting, of course, a number of measures that you're proposing are in Build Back Better, and your 50th vote, Senator Manchin, has proposed added deficit reduction measures as a potential replacement. Are you open to that?
We're sitting down and discussing things with Senator Manchin, and we want to hear what he has to say, for sure. All right, now we'll go to yours. I tried. He did a little trick, too, so you get yours.
I just wanted to know if you've had any talks with the administration or expect a request from them for additional.
They haven't sent us a relief package yet, but obviously we're going to have to do something.
Leader Schumer, how are you going to respond to the Republican boycott today at the Senate Banking Committee?
Well, we hope that Chairman Brown and Senator Toomey can work this out.
Leader Schumer, the Parkland anniversary reminded me, it's been almost a year now since you pledged to put the House-passed background check bills on the floor. When are those votes going to happen?
Well, look, Senator Murphy had been trying to work with Republicans to get 60 votes. He hasn't given up on those efforts, although they've not gotten that far. But we're going to keep pursuing background checks. I believe in that very, very strongly. As you know, I was author of the Brady Law. Yes, nope. Next one.
So last year, Congress passed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, but we are seeing cases going up against Asian Americans, including one that just happened over the weekend in New York City. So is the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act not as effective as it should be?
No, it's in the process of becoming very effective. It actually focuses prosecutorial resources on Asian hate crimes. It's focused the country on Asian hate crimes. I think it is effective, but it's going to take a little while for it to be fully implemented. Last question.
Is there going to be any action at all on sanctions against Russia in terms before an invasion in Ukraine? And I'm going to ask you a second question here because the CR needs to get...
Oh, no. You only get one.
Well,
no,
it's about a government shutdown.
Okay, no, okay. Well, on the CR, I am very optimistic that we will, Leader McConnell evidently at his briefing a minute ago or a few minutes ago said he does not want the government to shut down, and so we will cooperate with him, and I don't believe Republicans want to sponsor a Republican shutdown, plain and simple. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Oh, yeah, all right. Well, you get the sanctions question. Well, yes, we are right now in the process of putting a bipartisan statement together. Leader McConnell and I are working on this with the chairs and ranking members of the relevant committees, and we hope to have that statement very soon, as soon as today. You'll go see it. You'll go read it. Thank you.